Welcome to Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes. I'm Patricia Steere. This is episode number 93. Flat earther and photographer Karlee Sunshine joins me. We're going to talk about the images she captures with her camera of our beautiful skies. She's had a YouTube channel since March 2015, and she runs the Facebook group Flat and Happy. She co-admins 10 other Facebook groups, so she's very busy. Karlee was born in Florida, but now lives in Pennsylvania with her fiancé. She got engaged January 2016. They live peacefully in the country with their pit bull. Karlee grows her own vegetables, preserves, and cans them. Animals in her life, aside from her fiancé and their pit bull, include 2 hens and some beautiful betta fish. The sun, moon, stars, and planets are the topic of discussion as they relate to Flat Earth, plus her camera and how she captures her extraordinary shots. Well, Karlee, thank you for being here on Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes. Welcome to the show.
Hello, hello. I am so honored to be here. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you perfectly, and I'm honored to have you as a guest. So before we talk about the camera that's behind you and how you started taking pictures in the sky as you do, tell us how you first found out the Earth was flat. That probably changed your entire life.
It really did. I was very much into photography before the flat Earth came into my life. And I've always been into searching for truth. It didn't matter what it was. Right before flat Earth became popular with me and I started looking into it, I was researching things like CERN, which was a big deal. Jade Helm 15 was going on. I've always questioned the original story of 9/11, the false flags, the whole gamut of all those things, studying up on the atrocities of vaccinations and the GMO food. And just one day while I was, I think it was while I was researching things like CERN and Jade Helm, I used to listen to a radio show called Clyde Lewis's Ground Zero. Mm-hmm. And I had been looking into some weird, strange happenings with the moon, and I got wrapped up into watching the lunar wave. Mm. So Crow 777 is who started me down this path. Kind of. He wasn't necessarily a flat earther, and I'm not sure if he still is, but he definitely questions the original story of what the moon is. And it got me questioning it probably right around February 2015. And I wouldn't necessarily say I was questioning the Earth at that time, but the moon was really making me start to wonder about everything. Now, before that, I had already questioned whether we went to the moon and, did we land on that thing? How does it work? I don't understand how the phasing works, things like that. And when I found Crow 777's work, it fascinated me. And all of a sudden I'm seeing things that I can't see from where I am because of, the way he can zoom in on the moon. And he finds this lunar wave or a lunar anomaly, whatever he was calling it then. And he ended up being on the radio show that I watched, the Clyde Lewis's Ground Zero. Mm-hmm. And I was just fascinated. Coincidentally, because I'm starting to look into what the moon was and the differences that were going on now that I was seeing, it just so happened that Mark Sargent ended up being interviewed as well by Clyde Lewis. A couple weeks later, it was getting into March, and he was on that show. And I can even remember what the name of the show was. It was called This Geoid Earth. So it wasn't necessarily about, he wasn't calling it Flat Earth, and I think that might have been when he first was starting to do his clues or doing his research on his clues. I'm not sure the exact timeline, but that kind of got me sucked in because I was already very much listening to Clyde Lewis and the things that he was presenting. The moon got me questioning, and then Mark Sargent comes on and starts talking about maybe we don't live on a spinning ball. I will say that interview, it wasn't, I don't want to be mean and say it wasn't good because he's very good at explaining himself, but they didn't give him a lot of time to talk, and they took a lot of phone calls, and of course people were really rude. And he just, for some reason, even though I didn't get a good idea on what he was trying to get across, it still piqued my interest. And I know he had mentioned a couple other places to look into, and I believe one of them was the Atlantean conspiracy with Eric Dubay.
Mhm.
And so that led me down another rabbit hole. I started looking into Eric Dubay's work, uh, and for a couple months, I was just researching things just on my own, finding stuff on YouTube. There wasn't a lot around February and March of 2015, not anything like there is now. And it was a little hard to find information that I felt like resonated with me, but I was interested in it nonetheless. And somehow I just got hooked, and I just kept searching and searching and searching. And eventually, around summer, I realized that maybe there's stuff on social media about flat Earth, and I started finding groups on flat Earth, and one of them was the Atlantean conspiracy group, and then it just went from there. I think Ball Earth Skeptic was around at that time,
Mm-hmm.
and I started listening to the All Earth Skeptic roundtables, which
Me
were
too.
fantastic. So
Me
many
too.
of
Loved
the
them.
really great voices. Like some of them, unfortunately, we don't hear from as much anymore. But like Stars Are Souls and Wakey Wakey and David Weiss, I think, was on there.
Matrix Decode.
Matrix Decode, yep.
Jaren's been on
There's
there. Mark Sargent. I mean,
Yep,
depending
Jaren,
upon.
Mark, yep, all those guys, and it just and I think Dave Murphy or Dave Moore.
Oh, of
Facebook,
course,
I
yes.
think he was on there. Yeah, all these great voices. These guys with just loads of information, and I was just like overwhelmed in a good way. And all of a sudden, I had all this to do and all this to research and all these paths that I can go down. And that's what started it for me. And at first, I was, I guess, quiet about it. I was in the social media part as far as Facebook, and I slowly started joining a bunch of groups because there's so much out there outside of just the Facebook aspect of it. But it is a good tool to use to be able to search for truth and find like-minded people. But slowly I started getting into more groups, and eventually I decided I was seeing that people that felt the same way I did, that were learning about this flat Earth awakening and how it was affecting them. I seen them go through the patterns of like the stages of grief, but also being so elated that they're finding truth in something that they've been lied to for so long about, that I wanted to start my own group that could kind of be a safe haven for these people that are feeling the same way I am. Super excited that they found this truth. Super excited to be going out and making new observations, like you're going to school all over again, and that you can go and learn this all brand new. But they don't have anyone they can talk to about it at home, not easily, not always. And they feel kind of squelched that way and maybe segregated that way. And I wanted to start a group where it could be a safe haven for people to go to that felt how I did. The total two polar opposites of how you feel when you're learning something like this, something so new. And that's why I started the group I created, Flat and Happy.
I like the name. I do want to say before we go on, I noticed a little bit of lag. It's maybe a bandwidth problem, and maybe there's nothing we can do
Okay.
about it. But I just want to have you see if you can check and to see if anything's open, like Skype or
I don't
probably
have
not.
anything else. Yeah,
All
I don't
right.
have
Well,
anything else open.
I hope that it works out once it filters to YouTube. Then, and my apologies to anybody listening if we sound choppy. The show will be worth listening to. So, all right. So, Flat and Happy was born, and that's on Facebook. It's a group that people can join. Do they need to be invited to join? Is that how it works? Because all the groups work differently.
Yeah, it's not a private group where you need to be invited, but it is a closed group, and that's my decision. Different groups run their groups differently. You can have a public group where anyone can just see what's going on and people can comment, but then you can also get a lot of harassment that way. So
Yes.
I made mine a closed group so that it's more like a safe haven where everyone can go in there and they can research anything flat Earth related, and they can share anything flat Earth related. They can share their documentation, their photography, their observations, but they can also have a safe place to get counsel if they have a question, or if they, they're having a hard day because people are harassing them because they're, trying to share the truth, things like that.
Right. I know what you're saying. Many people don't have a significant other or family members or coworkers who can relate at all, and it's a hard road. And I think that's why, I mean, I started off on Facebook too, sharing things. I did join a bunch of groups and backed out of most of them because there was so much drama going on in the groups, and I really don't want a part of drama. So, but there are really good groups. But now I don't really have time for groups. So, but you know how it is. But you admin 10 different groups as well as the 11th, your primary group. That's all on you. Yes. How do you have the time for that?
Well, I'll tell you, some of them aren't quite as active as others. And some of them I'm just in there because in the beginning, I was maybe helping someone that didn't fully understand how a group would run, and they wanted help, and they just put me in there to admin to help them. But some of them aren't quite as busy, but some of them are. It's just one of those things where once I started being in a group and adminning, being an admin to me is something that you do so that you are moderating people, and not necessarily, I don't want that to sound like you're controlling, but you are there to help make sure that people be fair to each other. At least that's how I like to run my groups.
Right. So everyone has a good experience, and it isn't ruined by one or two people who are just there to destroy things.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
There's no point in having, we don't mind having a good, healthy discussion. I don't care if it's about religion or flat earth, anything that gets you really riled up, but there's a respectful way to do it. We don't need name calling. We don't need to call people out on anything. We just need to be human beings, and share the information. I think we go a long way with that. And to go back to what you were saying earlier, it is a closed group. Like I said, you don't need to be invited, but you do need to request to be in, and then I screen everyone. I have two other admins that work with me. They're wonderful. I don't know if they want me to say their names, but I will. One admin's name is Sarah Anderson, and one is Robert Kidner, and they do an excellent job of just monitoring what's going on and making sure basically people are happy and they're respecting each other. And they do an excellent job in helping the conversations to be engaging and to share good information so that it's a place that people can go and learn. But I do all the screening as of right now. If we get much bigger, then I'll probably start delegating other people to screen. But I just like to do that to make sure I know who's coming in, That's my responsibility.
You don't want to be asleep and wake up to a nasty surprise that's been going on your group, and it's everything's gone crazy.
Exactly, and we are known for being drama-free. I've also left many a group because it's become just a total disaster. I won't name names, but it's just they just sometimes they get that way, and I don't need that in my life. I don't need the stress.
I think we need an admin like you to just admin life, just all of life.
I've always felt like I was quite a peacemaker, and that I have a gift of understanding. So it kind of comes naturally. I can kind of put myself in different people's shoes and see where they're coming from, and then try to, how do I want to say, just make sure the outcome is fair. Because I can help them see the two different points, Moderator.
Yes. Now, your fiance, recent engagement. Congratulations.
Yes. Thank you.
Now, what does he think about what you do, Flat Earth? Is he on board or not?
He is kind of on board, but he's not. I'll tell you from the beginning, because I've been doing this now for over a year. I think it made him a little bit annoyed. And maybe he was a little worrisome because he didn't understand it. And with me, I like to talk. I'm a friendly person, and of course he knows that. But when I would get excited about something like this that I was learning, I wanted to share it with him. And he didn't always understand exactly, what I was trying to say and why it's important. So there were some times in the beginning when he would kind of throw it to the wayside and act like, it's more important for me to know what I'm taking in my lunch to work tomorrow than, talking about something so abstract in his mind. However, I don't let up, and I don't try to be mean about it, but I don't let up. Like when I come home and I am doing chores, I'm listening to interviews, listening to shows. So he's listening to them also in the background. And what's funny is he has gotten hooked on a bunch of it. You know, he's like, I'll tell him partway through, do you want me to mute this? Do you want me to go out of the room? And he wants to listen now. And he's become very supportive with the videos that I make and the creations and the art. And he's supportive when I want to get a moon shot and I have to be outside till 2 a.m. or whatever the issue is. He's become very supportive of it. I think he now knows my dedication and I love it and it's important to me. And he's seeing it come together and he's enjoying it as well. I don't think he'd be someone to go out and tell other people about it though.
Right. But he probably knows different flat earthers' names, you know, which ones he kind of likes listening to better than others. He probably knows a lot more about flat earth than you would probably even know.
Oh yeah, he's soaking it all in.
That's a great thing though.
I'm just secretly brainwashing him because I'm just playing it on the background.
Perfect. We all were secretly brainwashed with the globe, so you go ahead and do that.
That's right.
Great.
Yeah.
That's great.
I got a lot of catching up to do. So.
You certainly do. So you two have your pit bull and you've got tropical fish and you've got chickens or hens actually. It seems like you live a really beautiful life. And where you live, you said in the country, has got to be a benefit for your photography because you don't have all of that visual noise from the lights that's, you know, ruining your pictures at night.
I don't have, you're right, I don't have the ambient light like you would if there was a town or a city really close. I know when I was in New York, I got engaged in New York. So in January, one of the main things I noticed, of course, after getting engaged was when you go outside at night, you can't tell where you are. All you see is black in the sky. There's no stars. You have no idea where the moon is. It's actually pretty intimidating. So I feel like I am fortunate because I can go out here and most of the time have a pretty clear, dark sky that I can get pictures of stars and the pictures of the moon. And I have, the front of our house has a big field, and then there's a mountain we call the North Mountain. Helps me with my directions. And I can often get the sun exit and the moon exit that way. I like to call it exits. I try to stop myself from saying sunset and moonset.
There's all these new flat earth terms that we have.
Yeah, I really like using the exit and entrance.
I like it. I've never heard it. I might steal it from you.
I'd like to say I coined the terms, but there may have been someone that said it before that I've
never heard anyone say it before. You're the first, I think.
I'm trying so hard. So when I see the sun coming, because it's coming at us, so it's entering into my line of vision. So I call it a sun entrance. Or when the moon enters, you know, it sounds pretty too.
It does. And whenever we say it, we have to say the sun entrance trademark, Karlee Sunshine.
There you go. I'll tell you about why that's my nickname too.
Yes, I was going to ask
my real
you.
middle name.
It's not your real middle name. Please tell us why Sunshine. Well, I can tell by your personality. Maybe that's why.
That's probably why. Yeah, no, that is why. Well, first of all, I just wanted to finish up with the being so happy where I live because of the photography I can get. I do usually have pretty open skies. Now, we have some pretty mature trees out back that does block out some of the sky. But then behind my house, there's another field and a railroad track. So what's funny is sometimes I set out way out in the middle of this field in the middle of the night. You probably think I'm crazy because they can see my flashlight and stuff. And I can set out there and get some really nice star photos and the moon photos and things like that. It depends on when the moon is going to be, you know, entering and exiting, whether it's going to be dark. But there's a lot of times that I'm able to do that. And what's nice is that the mountains that I live in between is, we call it the North Mountain and the South Mountain, and I'm nestled in between that, and then I'm just surrounded by fields. But we live a pretty simple life. We don't own our home, we just rent. But that's okay with me for right now because it's temporary. We can find something better, then we'll move on to something better. But it's a cute little older house, and I love that it's out in the country. We have a nice big yard, and that we're free to have some of the animals, and we're free to make the gardens and things like that. A lot of places won't let you do that.
Right.
Even townships, even in town and things like that. walls. You can't do that.
Yeah.
We're very fortunate.
With zoning, some people, I remember living in Napa, California, and you could actually in Napa, California, when I lived there, have chickens in your backyard. But it's a
Yeah.
real city, but it
Yeah.
depends on the place. But being in
Yeah.
the country, you can do whatever you want, really. Even be a
Yeah.
flat earther without anybody bothering you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. The thing that would bother people the most is probably me setting up my camera in the middle of the night, because it's probably creepy if someone to walk by. But we have a couple neighbors, but they're pretty laid back too. They don't mind.
So you said you were doing photography before you got into flat earth around March or so. It's kind of when I got into flat earth too, was March of 2015. What were you taking pictures of prior to that? And you do take those sorts of pictures now as well?
Oh yeah, I've been into photography for a pretty long time. Now, I'm not by any means a professional. I do it, I would say amateur photography, although a lot of people really like my work, and I have been used to do like weddings and receptions. And lately here I've done like infant photography, or like newborn photography, which is extremely, extremely fun. And photography, I also love nature, so I've done a lot of nature photography. We actually have an elk herd, so they're like the deer with the big antlers in
Yes.
northern Pennsylvania. Same ones you see like out in Montana and Colorado. There's a wild elk herd in Pennsylvania, and I go up there, and I call it chasing the elk, but I go up there and do photography of the elk as well, and a lot of the other wildlife. I have video of black bear, and I have pictures of deer and things like that. And I've been doing it for a while. I have the camera that's sitting behind me. It's actually, from my best guess, 11 years old. It's the same camera that I take the pictures of the moon with. I desperately need to get new equipment, but it's just not something
your pictures
I can do
are
right
so
now.
good that people might think that you're using a P900 or something like that, but you're not.
Well,
it's an 11-year-old camera.
Yeah, some people have asked me, do you have this new camera? And I explained to them, no. I'm thankful for their kind words, but I explained to them, no, it's a Canon PowerShot S5IS, 8 megapixel, which is actually really, really low. But I usually kind of max out when I'm doing the manual focusing and messing with the light aperture and changing those features. So when you're maxing it out, I think it's all about knowing your camera so that you can figure out how to get that shot, and set up for the shot. So for now, what you see when I do with the moon, it's maxed. I only have a 48 times zoom. To put it into perspective, this new camera everyone's getting, the Nikon, I think is an 83 times zoom. So they're doing twice as far, twice as close as what I can get. But I enjoy it. I look for patterns. I try to figure out what's going on. I try to understand why when we take, photos of the moon, that it's sometimes different colors, and trying to figure out how the phasing works. It's all a mystery, but it's to me, it's satisfying though to help.
Makes you feel like you're doing something, that you're trying. This is the thing that you do best, and you're contributing to the whole flat Earth awakening.
Right.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
And the more I do, the more I take the photos. Unfortunately, there's big spans of time where I can't get any pictures because we have cloudy weather. Like, I think we're going on day 10 or day 12 of just complete gray skies, clouds blanketing everything. I have no idea in what phase the moon's on right now, which is sad to me, but I just can't capture it, so I just have to kind of wait. And then when we start getting clear skies, I'll be out there again.
Now, I know, Karlee, you said that Crow 777 and the lunar wave, that was one of the first things that you saw that kind of got you on the flat Earth path. Mm-hmm. Have you ever seen the lunar wave yourself?
I have not with my camera. I can't get quite close enough. Now, sometimes I'll look at it even through other optics like binoculars, which sometimes even shows it more clear because my camera is so old, the viewfinder is very scratched. So on top of everything, when I'm taking a picture, I have to know the settings to know the picture's going to come out clear, because the viewfinder is so scratched it's not showing you what I'm really going to see when I download the picture. But sometimes when I look through a clear binoculars, you can see it easier. But the thing is, when you're looking for something like the lunar wave, you really have to be set up in a very stable environment, like a stable um, uh, tripod, for a telescope or for your camera, because even though you might not see the lunar wave, you do see, like, I don't know if you want to call it refraction or waviness. A lot of people have said it looks like you're looking at the moon through water, which I am starting to jump on that bandwagon as far as think in a watery type substance, above us. And you see some of that. It's almost like looking through a like, do you ever look out over a hot road and you see the waves from the heat?
Yes.
That's like what you're looking through sometimes. So in order to capture that distinct, line of a wave that's going up over the moon, it's very difficult. I have never seen it with my camera just because I'm not quite close enough. But it is fascinating to watch. If no one's ever watched the lunar wave from Crow 777, I would suggest finding it. He's got all kinds of videos. And
there's a man
he's
here.
Starting to.
Oh, you go ahead first.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think he is starting to also talk about space, what we think is space, being water or something like water, because of what he's witnessed.
There's a man here in Houston who kind of helps Crow 777. They help each other. I believe his name is Robert. And he has captured the lunar wave himself. So people are doing it. It's not just Crow. And it is interesting that he's gone to that conclusion about it being water. And many people who believe in the Bible are tying it all together with the Bible. And it's making a lot of people reevaluate pretty much everything. But this whole flat earth thing has made people reevaluate everything. So, exciting times we live in. I thought life was great prior to flat earth, but this has given all of us, you, me, everyone watching, a whole new aspect that we never, ever expected in our lives. And it's a great time to be alive. It really is.
Yeah, it is. And oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. It's the the bandwidth and the what's going on with Google making us talk over each other. Sorry, you go ahead.
I apologize. I don't hear us talking over each other. It might just be you hearing.
Don't worry about it. It'll work out.
Okay. What you're saying about it, this whole new truth changing our lives. I mean, it really does. And I don't think a lot of people totally understand exactly how much, I'm going to say the word psychologically. I don't mean that, flat earth is a psyop like that, but psychologically this affects people majorly. And we do see these effects. We see the people struggling with the grief, and you see people lashing out at others because of, you see the aggression. You see some people are just elated, some people that get very lonely and depressed because now they want to be able to reach out to others and they can't. Not like how humans really should. This is wonderful. This is amazing to be able to look at someone in the eyes and talk and we can hear each other. But it's still not the same as, sitting in front of them and watching their body language and hearing them, face to face. And it is changing people's lives in that way. And with me, it was like, I've always felt different, and you probably heard that before from other people.
Yes,
as far as
how included. We all relate to this.
I've always felt like I was set apart, and I don't mean that to sound vain. And once this flat earth knowledge came to me, and I started really diving into it, I really then started thinking, it sounds so cliche, but like, I feel like I've been chosen. And so have many of us. I feel like I was chosen to be able to use this information and share it with others and teach others and make observations and maybe come up with the theories and things like that. I feel like maybe this all along, this was something that was meant to happen to me because of things that have happened in my past that now are all kind of starting to make sense. And because of the way I feel when I go outside and the connection I feel when I'm in the sun and touching the dirt and, earth in general, it's just, I don't know how to explain it. I hope I'm doing a good enough job. But
the funny thing is that you don't need to explain it, because I bet everyone watching now and listening is saying, yeah, me too.
Feels the same.
Mm-hmm.
and it's amazing to have that connection with others. I think we just need to look inside and realize that's what it is. I think a lot of us are becoming confused when we're feeling these connections or these thoughts and feelings we never had before, and a closeness to other people, and then can't deal with the differences. People, I think we need to try to become more sensitive to that, you know. You know what I mean?
I totally know what you mean. Completely.
Yeah.
And many who are listening and watching do as well. So you're there in your house at night taking these pictures. Have you ever seen anything odd, weird, an anomaly, something that you can't explain, even UFO things, or just when you're watching the moon, it do something that you weren't expecting?
Well, if we want to go back to the UFO thing a little bit, we can. Like, because I do have, and I don't want to weird anybody out that's listening, although they might be very interested.
Oh, let's weird people out.
Yeah.
Why not?
I do have some, yeah, I do have some stories about that. And that has a lot to do with why I question everything from the very beginning. But I'll answer the other part of the question first. When dealing with the moon, some of the odd things that I've seen would be things that many of us have seen, and it frustrates us, would be things like the moon halo, or the moon bow, they call it, that white or almost rainbow circle that happens on the moon. And it's always there because they're spraying, unfortunately, chemtrails in the sky. And I'll tell you, the last 3 months of full moons, it has happened in a row, at least where I am. So February, March, April, because, you know, full moon happens, I want to get out there and get a picture, because it's all the phases to me are exciting, but the full moon, you're getting to see the majority of the moon, and there's just something exciting about that. And plus, maybe it is having an effect on me, you know, emotionally, and I just want to be able to see it. And for 3 months in a row, I have gotten a picture or two, but it's been a big struggle because we've had so much of the chemtrails crossing in front of the moon. I've noticed, and I have this documented in one of my videos, that, and this scared me. I never noticed it during the day, but when the chemtrails were going in front of the moon, I was taking consistent pictures of that chemtrail as it passed over the moon and over a moon halo. And then it kept getting bigger and bigger because it was spreading out. But I noticed that it wasn't just spreading out and staying at that altitude. It was dropping. So to me, I mean, everything that they're spraying up there isn't just spreading out and disappearing and dissipating. This was getting closer and closer and closer to me. So that spray is being sprayed for a purpose to spread out and then coming down to Earth, which was that part. That was upsetting to me, you know, to see that. The chemtrails definitely look weird when you get the stripes in front of the moon. I've never seen anything like, when something flies by, it flies by so quickly, so I've never seen anything strange. Like I've heard other people say they caught things going in and out of the moon, and, you know, I've never seen anything like that, not with my photography. I have documented, and a lot of us see this, when the moon changes color, like when it's entering our line of vision, when it's having a moon entrance or a moon exit, because of our line of perspective, you know, the lines are coming like this to a point. We are looking at that moon through quite a lot of moisture and debris and pollution close to Earth. And in my opinion, that is what is changing the color of the moon. So when we see that bright pink or orange or red moon, most people say that's rising, you know, and it oftentimes looks very big. When there's a lot of moisture in the air, the moisture in the air will also magnify things. If you ever look at a droplet of water on like a newspaper, it will magnify the words, and you can see it get bigger. And I'm thinking that that's what's going on when we're looking at the moon and the sun, when it gets very, very bright red, when it's trying to exit our line of vision or enter, and it's changed its color and it looks bigger. That bothered me for a while, because I was thinking, you know, how is the sun and the moon moving away from me? It should be getting smaller on a flat Earth, right?
Yes.
And that bothers me, but because of where I am, I have very limited vision as far as a horizon. Like David Weiss calls it, the false horizon. I have two mountains that I'm in, like a valley. So that really blocks my vision. If I was up higher and I could see the moon or that sun entering my line of vision for a much longer period of time, I'm convinced it would start out much smaller and it would get larger as it got to me. But and I've done a video on this as well. It's a comparison between moon and sun exits, and then also an explanation of why my theory is to why they change color and they look bigger. Because sometimes people that still believe in the fall Earth use that as a argument. Well, it's not getting smaller as it goes away; it's setting and it's getting bigger. But that would be another kind of anomaly that I've seen, as I'm doing the photography or just observing. But I don't have any answer to that.
Well, you mentioned that sometimes you see something fly by the moon, and I know even watching Crow 777 videos, when he's looking through his camera with the magnification, you can tell it's a bird because of the way it moves, or some kind of an insect that's much closer to the camera, of course, or the telescope camera thing he's got all hooked up. But you said something about UFOs, and you said you didn't want to get too crazy. Tell us what it is.
Okay, so this might really freak people out, but it's part of my story. It doesn't have as much to do with UFOs, but it has to do with creature. So when I was very young, and there are some viewers out there that will understand because I've talked to some of them about this before a little bit. And Chris in Love, I think you did an interview with her when she on the Ginger Show.
Yes.
Is that what it was called? I'm sorry if I said that wrong.
No, it's Gingerfest,
okay,
but I do want to have Chris in Love if she will be willing to come on as a solo guest at one time because I really like what she does.
Yeah.
Anyway.
She has had some similar situations that I've had, and after that show, I talked to her a little bit. We promised to do a Google Hangout, and then we need to reschedule and get that done. But anyway, people like her, she will understand where I'm coming from. But when I was very young, so to explain a backstory as far as why I feel different, why I am different, why I have always questioned the original narrative of anything. When I was 8, that's like second grade, I was pretty young. I lived in kind of close to here, still in Pennsylvania, lived on top of the hill with my family. And one night, in the middle of the night, I woke up and felt like something was watching me. And it upset me, but I still was courageous enough to get out of bed and look around. At the age of 8, I had to find out what was making me feel so odd and like I was being watched. And I went over to my window, and now you have to understand where I lived. We lived on in a double-wide manufactured home on a basement, and my window was above the basement that was exposed, so my window was 2 stories up, but there was something outside of my window. And this creature, nowadays people would say it looked like the quintessential gray alien that everyone people say they've seen when they've been abducted or when they've been coming encounter with it at all. But at 8 years old, I had no idea what this was. I just knew that there was something extremely terrifying, like gut-wrenching, terrifying, weird little creature outside of my window. And it looked like kind of like a cadaver gray colored, which that's disgusting, but it looked like it had no blood. It didn't look like it had almost any life to it. The big black eyes that looked lifeless, no mouth or a very small mouth, almost no nose, but it was just outside my window, and it was acting very aggressive. So it was like making twitchy kind of movements, like it was trying to get in my window, but it wasn't using its hands to try to get in my window. It wasn't trying to get into my bedroom at all. Although in my head, I was feeling that this thing wanted to get in there. It's still odd to explain it. When I explain it, I get like, my palms get sweaty because it was so scary of a situation. So it addressed me somehow. It didn't talk. There was no voice. It just placed a thought in my head. And this is kind of the clincher, because all the thoughts that it was placing in my head to communicate with me was consistently of hate. It hated me for who I was as a human being. I'm pretty sure that's what it was trying to get across. And it absolutely was disgusted with God, the Creator, and it blasphemed God, the Creator, over and over again. And it was very, very angry. And looking back, I think it was very, very angry because it wanted to get to me, and I was protected, and it couldn't get to me. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because I remember very distinctly praying because I didn't know what else to do. I was kind of in a fog. I didn't think to call for my parents. My brother was younger than me, so he's only 6. So I didn't think to call for him. I was just drawn to investigate what was going on because something made me feel odd, and there was something outside my window. And it, like I said, it just acted very, very angry, very aggressive. Could not get in my bedroom, but it did want to. And on the flip side, I felt very protected because for some reason it was just completely being blocked. But it was not blocked from me how it was feeling. And it was very odd to me that it distinctly wanted to get its point across that it was very angry at God, hated God, and hated me because I was of God or human, and it was terrifying. Needless to say, it disappeared, and I ended up crawling back in bed. I was so young that my way of feeling like I would be safe was I took all my little stuffed animals and piled them up around me like a little wall, and then I fell back to sleep. Now, some people will say, were you really awake? Did it really happen?
Was it a night terror?
Yeah, was it just a night terror? But I'll tell you, that affects me so physically when I tell that story, even still now. I'm 36, so quite a long time ago that happened. And that experience changed my life from then on. I mean, I told my mom about it, and she was really freaked out, but had no answers for me. Didn't know if it was just a bad nightmare, and that's probably how she explained it, but had no answers for me. There's nothing, what do you do about that, except check on your kids more often in the middle of the night. And that kind of thing never happened again. I have had a lot of other odd situations happen, but nothing quite like that. But after that, even at the age of 8, I started thinking, I'm different. Why did that thing come after me, and why was I protected from it? At least that's why I felt from this situation that happened. And what is it? When I started looking into what it is I saw, I'm reading Betty and Barney Hill's story, when they were abducted, and all these older stories of alien abductions. I hate to even call it that. But the answers I was getting was, okay, this is what I saw. It was a gray alien. But I decided that it was, once I studied it, that I don't call them aliens anymore, much like a lot of other people. They are an evil entity that I believe is from Lucifer or Satan, and they are from this world. They are not living in space on another planet. They're not traveling here in UFOs, nothing like that. And it's pretty fascinating that I came to that conclusion at such a young age because of the things it said, and because of how I was treated in this experience, that I went the total opposite way. And at the young age of 8, realized that, okay, the whole alien agenda thing is just bogus, at such a young age. But now, all these years later, yes, a lot of other weird things have happened to me that still have reminded me that you're a little different, and have kept me questioning things. It coincides with the flat Earth very perfectly. Had I just continued to believe that we lived on a ball or spinning in space, the whole alien thing would have gotten more out of control, and I would probably, agree with most people that it comes from another planet. But because of these things that happened to me so young, I got insider information that that's not what's going on, And I know a lot of other people feel that way. They just might not have gone through what I did.
A lot of people have had experiences somewhat like yours. They didn't come to a hard and fast conclusion about what this thing or things were or was, but they felt immediately changed by it, and it's lasted their whole life and made their minds open to possibilities. And of course, there's lots of flat earthers who've never seen a thing like this at all, of course. But I've met quite a lot who have, including me, actually, when I was younger than you. But we're not going to talk about me here, but I can relate to what you're saying on some level for sure.
Well,
And you never forget it. You never forget it. And you think you're crazy and you go back and forth, but then when flat earth hits you and you realize, like you said, they could be aliens or whatever it is, could be on across the plane.
Right.
As it makes it all seem way more possible.
Right.
We can't all be crazy. Some of us, but we can't all be crazy that have had these minor experiences, which at the time were minor. I mean, we didn't. You and I didn't feel we were abducted and taken into a ship, or implanted with things. Nothing like that. But just these experiences when you're very young, like you explained, they stick with you, and we feel that this wasn't a bad dream. So, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. These kind of things you tell your fiance. Has he had any experiences like that, or does he think you're kind of nutty, but he loves you?
He thinks I'm nutty, and he does love me, but I have shared this with him, and it was actually pretty early in our relationship because we just happened to sit down and watch this movie called Fourth Kind, which is absolutely terrifying because it is, to me, so very close to maybe the truth of all of that. And it's just a movie, I understand it's Hollywood, but when he decided to watch that movie, when we first got together, I had to stop the movie and I had to explain to him why I was getting upset. And we're still together, so it didn't scare him off.
Well, he's not with a boring woman, so I think that's probably fun for him. You do other things aside from the photography, and I want to get back to the photography in a couple of moments, but you've been making things like flat earth business cards and flyers, and do you have some of those with you, or can you do a show and tell for us?
I do actually have some of them, and I'll try to talk as I show, and I'll explain. So when I first started making the group Flat and Happy, I every time I take a new step, I want to continue to keep giving back to the community and do more and more, whatever I can to do to help. And I will say that at one point, I was listening to Dan Pratt, actually, and he put out a I don't know what you want to call it, like a call to action that we needed to start doing more things that we can actually, things we can hand out and things we can give out to people and not just only be talking to each other on social media. And I kind of took that to heart and decided, and I don't even know if he knows this, but I decided to try to start making brochures and handouts, and yeah, there's little business cards. They're not useful as far as we don't use them like business cards, but you can cut them up and you can leave them somewhere, and it sparks interest, and someone's going to wonder what that's all about. So I started making, with some of my photography, I started making like brochures, and I'll try to keep talking. Can you guys see that? Can you see that okay? So it's like a trifold brochure, and then I covered it in a lot of my photography because I wanted to use something that was mine. I didn't want to just, snag pictures off the internet that weren't mine. It didn't mean as much to me. But some of this is mostly all my photography. The only one that isn't mine is this picture on the front because I didn't make that, but I did use it just to show the model. And then there's also some information on the back. And it's just one of those things that what I did is I made it so that it could be free. And when I uploaded the pictures, I explained to everyone how you can click and highlight both and how you want to print them so they print off correctly, so they print front and back, and you can just print this kind of thing on just regular paper and fold them up, and you can place them where you want. Leave them, I don't know, in the supermarket or on the bus, coffee house. So that's the first brochure that I made, and then I decided I wanted to try to do one that was more geared towards the Christian view. So I also made this one, and that's right about the time I started making some of the flat earth, I call them flat earth creative models as well, and I can show you a little bit of those. But this is also a trifold I hope you can see that okay.
So professional, so well done.
Thank you. And this is my photography. And like I said, I just wanted to be able to use what I was doing artistically and help it bring attention to flat Earth, you know, and allow other people to use it. It's free. I'm not charging. I'm not selling it. I put it out there. I have fun making them, and it makes me feel rewarding. It's rewarding to me. And then I also like hearing feedback. I haven't gotten as much feedback as I'd like, you know, that people
How
are
would
using them.
if somebody wanted to print those out themselves and spread them around, where do they go to get it?
Well, I have made albums with a lot of these. I call them Flat Earth Activism Awareness. That's the album. So there's an album in Flat and Happy that has all this information, and underneath each picture there's also the directions on how to print it, because some of them are front and back and you have to print them correctly. And then in some of my other groups, at this point I can't remember exactly which other ones have the album and don't have the album, but for sure Flat and Happy has the album, and people could, if they want to join the group, they can go in there and they can get that for free. And I can
Okay, so if you just go into the Facebook search bar and you put Flat and Happy, will the group come up, or is there a different way? All right. And then you just make a request to join the group. Easy enough. Sounds cool. Now you've done other things too, business cards as well. Or you have more.
Here's an example of the business cards. I don't know. They might be hard to read right now because you'd have to, you know, cut them up, and then when you're looking at them, you can read them. But they say, it just says Earth, and then it says Flat Earth Researcher, and then there's bullet points, just simple ones like the Earth is not a spinning ball, the sun and moon are small and close, there is no measurable curve, water always finds its level, and then research your flat and stationary Earth. And it's just a really pretty picture of like stones and bamboo.
It is pretty, very peaceful.
But it's something simple that, okay, you could print off a whole page, cut it out. There's 10 of them on a page, and then just hand them out or leave them places. It gets people thinking, you know. It's something to get the masses to question maybe their Earth, you know, because maybe they're hearing about this on the internet, and then when they start seeing something like this in real life, they're going to maybe get very curious and start looking into it. I don't know.
Good to cut some up and put them in your wallet, and then when you run across that right person at the right time who's open to the idea, you can give them something like that.
Yep.
Maybe you could even write on the back a website to go to, your favorite website or your favorite YouTuber. Even if you're a YouTuber, you could put your own information so that you'll get more people coming to see your videos.
Yep.
I don't mean you, I mean whoever might be watching, thinking of doing this. It's a really great idea.
Well, that's the thing. Like if I leave them blank like that, I do that with my business cards where I work. You can write information on the back. You can write down email addresses or a website, you know, that you want someone to check out. So it's kind of like you can personalize it and you put your own information on it, but it's just kind of eye-catching and people start questioning. Anything to make people start questioning, and that's how it happened to me, right? I mean, it was just something simple like, what's going on with the moon? Started, you know, this whole snowballing effect of questioning everything about Earth. So I hope to be the catalyst for someone else, you know, to be able to do that.
Well, I'm sure you have. I like the idea that Mr. Flat Taxi Rainbow Chemtrails has with his flat Earth tape that he's got. That you can kind of do graffiti, but it's not really damaging anything by buying that tape and putting it up. I bought some. I'm still waiting for mine to be delivered. So
that is cool. I like that idea.
So many ideas that are pretty close to free or almost free, and you know, you've made it easily accessible for anybody if they join that Flat and Happy group on Facebook, and then they can just download these things. And if they've got a printer and, you know, some paper, it's basically close to free anyway. And
I did ones like Christmas cards. I don't know how they went over. I don't know how many people printed them off and used them. But at one time, people were concerned about sharing it with their family. So why not make like actually it was a 'Tis the Season card, because not everyone celebrates Christmas. But it was just something for that kind of that season to, if you want to kind of very not quietly, but very peacefully, you know, share it with your family. You could slip them this Christmas card or this seasonal card, things like that. I was trying to find any way to make it easier for someone to get the word out to others. And that's really why, that's also really another motivation for having the group that I have, is that here we have this place where we can all kind of just like hone in on our craft and help educate each other, so then we can go out and share with our friends and family once we feel comfortable doing that. I like that people want to have things public and they want to tell everybody and anybody and scream it from the rooftop. I think that's wonderful, but not everybody will listen to that either. Sometimes people want to be completely prepared to give a good reasoning behind why they feel the way they do.
Yes, and cognitive dissonance sets in sometimes, and people don't want to hear it at that moment. But if you've given them a brochure or a card, and they put it in their pocket or their purse, maybe later on, when the anger's died down, they'll look at it and think, I'm going to Google something on this. See if that crazy girl was right or not.
Yeah. Yeah, and the more it saturates the populace, the more people are going to start questioning it. They're going to see it on Facebook, and they're going to see it on YouTube, and they might see it on news channels now because it's been getting around. They might hear celebrities talk about it, and then they might start seeing pamphlets and paperwork about it. It's just going to break their programming eventually, and they're going to have to sit down and question all this and research it a little bit.
We're at the phase right now where we are. Many people have accepted that the Earth is flat, and those people are trying to share that information in all the different ways that we've been talking about, and some we haven't touched on. And there are the people suffering from cognitive dissonance, but there's the people who've never heard of it at all. And we, I think, have to do, like Dan said, we have to, in some way, wake up as many people as possible. Because when we have more people being aware of flat Earth than not, that's when we can make some kind of changes to what's going on. Right now, we're not that big. It seems like we're big when we're in our own little world, in our own little groups, in our own little YouTube channel, or watching other videos. But then when you step outside and you're back in the matrix in your job, or with the family members or friends or whatever who are not flat earthers, then you realize we're really a drop in the bucket. So we have to build the numbers. And that's really, really important. So it's a great way to do it.
I really agree with you.
So what other things
I very much agree.
Well, what other things do you make? I know you do other things as well.
Yeah, I have, as far as like my videos, I was working on, and I still will probably continue to work on these, I call them flat earth creative models. I caught a lot of flack because of it, because people look at them and say that's not the way the map looks. Everybody's fighting over, the map, the flat earth map. And kudos to those that are studying it and trying to find a different way. I understand. I'm not completely set with one projection, as what the map is supposed to look like. And I'm not making calculations and measurements and trying to make it be a map you can unfold and, fly around the world with. But I like to take the maps, like this one, if you can see. I like to take the maps, and here's the original, and I like to do to convert them to the azimuthal equidistant projections. And this was one I used in a video on the sun's path, evidence of the sun's path. And I just wanted to show this one first because it shows you the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. And I know that this has been talked about in the past, but because I was making these models, I make the models because I like to look for patterns. If there are patterns in where we live and plant life and temperature and human population, biomes, all these things that coincides with how the sun would be cycling or on a circuit over top of the flat plane, then I want to share it with others. And it's hard work to make the models, but I enjoy it because it's kind of an artistic side for me. And then I like to put them on a slideshow and explain, what I'm doing. Now, the last one I did like this was called Flat Earth and Evidence of the Sun's Path. So I couldn't print off. I've made 45 of these flat Earth models, and I can't print them all off, but I just printed 2 that are pretty colorful and kind of make sense. So I can share them now. This one is just kind of going over the temperature, and it's showing you that the sun would be let me look here. Yeah, the sun would be cycling or on its circuit around the Tropic of Cancer, which is the circle above us that is the closest to the middle. And you can see with the temperature that this would be like our summer. And in fact, I think I wrote on here June, July, August. So this would be what the temperature would look like for at least North America, what we consider our summer. And you can see that in the temperature. Now, then I did another one to show, can you see that okay?
Perfectly.
Okay. So I did this other one to explain what we see closer to winter when the sun is now cycling farther away from the middle and it's cycling on the Tropic of Capricorn. So you can see that these continents have the warmer temperature and we are now experiencing winter. And I just love the fact that this coincides with what we have learned and what we see with the sun. Now, I know a lot of people are saying, I don't see the sun cycle. I see it go from one end to the other, and that's it. It doesn't make any kind of, any kind of bend. But I beg to differ because what I've observed, I have noticed that, first of all, the sun changes where it enters and exits my line of vision as it gets closer to the Tropic of Cancer, and as it moves away into the Tropic of Capricorn, it enters and exits at different spots, meaning that circle is getting even a tighter circle above the middle of the flat Earth plane, or the circle is getting wider and we're getting longer days, or however you want to explain it. And when I watch the sun exit, I've done a couple time-lapse videos. Now my camera, like I said, is really old, so I can't get the best time-lapse. But I try and I attempt. The time-lapse videos of the sun exiting and then watching all of its light follow it, it's definitely, first of all, the sun is not setting behind anything where the light is just getting cut off because it's just being blocked. You don't witness that. What you do witness is you witness the sun move away out of our line of vision, and then all of its light follows it very slowly. And as it is moving away from me, I see the tail end of it. It seems to do like a sweeping up to the right, which would be towards the west-northwest, which makes sense because that's the circuit it's on. We just see such a small piece of the sky that it is very hard to tell that it is making a circuit when you're just looking from where we are sitting.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. And David Weiss, who I know you know what David does, has had similar things that he said and shown in his many videos. His channel is a great channel because it has so much, and also his Facebook page too, Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. Just different playlists that you can find on his YouTube channel, DITRH, for all your various conspiracy needs, including Flat Earth.
Yeah.
So,
I absolutely love David Weiss, and I love his website because it is just chock full of information. And I love watching his videos. I feel like maybe we're just kind of a little similar because at least from what I've seen, he gets really passionate about figuring something out and then just goes out there and wants to capture it. And I feel the same way, and I don't maybe have the best equipment, but I do what I can with what I have. And I have a thought in my mind that if I do this and I do a time lapse, or if I do that it's gonna explain things, and I just go out there and do it right away. Even if it takes 3 hours, it's on my mind, it's in my heart, and I want to get it done. But he's very passionate about figuring out the sun, especially lately, the sun's path, and also the chemtrail thing. I talked to him just a little bit, shared with them some of my chemtrail videos as well. I don't know what to do about all that.
Do you see? You obviously where you are is where you take these photographs. So it's pretty heavy, pretty consistent where you are, even in the country.
The chemtrails, unfortunately, yes. And I don't know if it has to do with the country because they're spreading out over a pretty large area, so they may be covering the bigger cities close to me as well. But regardless, everything I've ever seen when it comes to the chemtrail spraying, it's almost always blocking out the sun. I mean, to me, from what I've observed, that's what's going on. And for whatever reason it is, I don't know. There's so many different ideas out there. People say it's blocking out Nibiru. I have no observations of that, and I have no proof.
So you've never seen Nibiru?
Yeah. And unfortunately, I've seen a lot of other people's evidence, and with doing photography, I hate to say it, I think a lot of what they do see is just anomalies from the sun glaring and the way the lens works, things like that. But
sun dogs, maybe.
Yeah, but who am I to say? I'm not going to say anything. They'll figure it out. You know what I mean? It's part of their journey, and they can keep doing the observations and keep making theories. Because I'm not always right either. But I don't know what to do about the chemtrails. But I do know that I've watched them for a while and documented them for a while, and I have yet to do a time lapse like David Weiss does, although I would like to, because that is really, really telling. You know, one thing when you're trying to share truth with other people, it's another reason why I try to keep getting involved in more and more. You know, is it easier to share truth with someone that you're sharing other people's videos, or is it easier to share truth when it's your actual experience? I think it's easier to share truth when it's your actual experience and you have a little bit of credibility with friends and family, whoever you're talking to. So that's why I try to go out there and capture some of this stuff that other people may have also. A lot of people, you know, capture the chemtrails. But I would love to do a time lapse and be able to show my family, okay, this is not CGI, this is not fake. Like, I watched this in my skies. This happened right above my house. And you can see the trails, you can see it block out the sun, you can see it change the sky, you can see it create a veil, and you can see it lower, and then you can see the weather change later. So it's those kinds of things why I like to document it. I don't have the answers yet, but I feel like the more I keep looking into the chemtrail debacle, that maybe we will come up with the answers.
Well, many people say there's no such thing as chemtrails, but I remember what skies used to be like when I was younger, and not too long ago, actually, really.
Right.
And things are quite different now. Sometimes you see stripes in the sky, and you can write it off to that's just the way the clouds look, or a plane flew by and it's water vapor. You can make these excuses, but then after years and years and years of seeing this, and seeing the weather change just after, you'd be a fool to not see a connection. But many people refuse. Of course, cognitive dissonance again. So
absolutely. And I also see a connection. I've talked to other people about this, and they argue that there's no connection between it and flat Earth, and maybe we shouldn't get into it. But honestly, if you are one of those people that goes out and you're trying to get photos of the moon, and you're trying to figure out the phases, and you're trying to figure out the sun and its circuit and how it's working, and you're trying to pinpoint stars because you want to know where the stars are now. They're there for guidance for us, so why can't we go out and take a look at them? But you have these chemtrails in the way, then it's blocking our ability to learn. I mean, in a lot of ways, I feel like some days that's just exactly why it's happening, is so that, you know, the more that we are coming out saying, oh, we figured this out, oh, we figured that out, you know, and we're learning things all new, the more they just cover the skies up so that we can't figure it out.
And also covering up our ability to actually see the sun as clearly and feel the energy of the sun so that it actually goes into our eyes, which is something our human bodies need. They're cutting us off from things that will make us see the truth. On every level.
That's another thing. Absolutely. That's another big point that I like to talk about, is that especially with the sun, and I think the moon too, I think the moon has a lot to do with regulating hormones. I mean, it does it with animals, and it helps things you know, come about as far as cycling with the hormones in animals, and why not maybe with humans. But with the sun, there's so many benefits to the sun, and I have that in one of my videos as well, some of the health benefits. But number one, we need to be able to see the sun because of the vitamin D that it helps us create. And I do see a very big connection. It's not just about going out and being able to stand in the sun, and it's not just about gazing at the sun as well, because some people do the sun gazing when it's lower in our horizon level. But it's also about connecting with the earth while you do it. This is a theory of mine, and other people have said it also, but I really strongly stand behind this, that more of us should be touching earth while we're in the sun. I feel like we wouldn't have as many of the negative effects. It's kind of like, do you ever hear of someone touching an electric fence? And if they touch the electric fence and they're holding someone's hand, they don't get hurt. So it grounds them, but the person on the end is not grounded through anyone else, and they get hurt. So I feel like if we're out in the sun and we're not grounding ourselves, like touching the earth with our bare feet, preferably, that there's a disconnect there. So everything the sun would be doing and downloading into you and creating energy and creating the vitamin D, and who knows what else it should be doing to us as a health benefit, that there's a disconnect when we're walking around with the rubber-soled shoes, and not making that connection to the earth. And I think that there are a lot of scientists out there, or like you say, those, how do you say it? Those who should not be, empowered.
The powers that should not be.
The powers that should not be, yeah. I think they know these kinds of things, and I think that that's some of the reasons why the sun ends up being blocked from us.
And the sun being connected to the earth, which I don't do as much as I should, definitely, and I want to change that. And looking at the sun, it seems like that has the potential to discharge a lot of the negative things that they're doing to us. Just let it go out of our body. So we need to do that. We all need to do that more. There's so many things that we need to do more, and what you're doing a lot of things that are great. You're taking it upon yourself to make things that you can hand out to people to create discussion. You're also taking these pictures and showing people what the moon is doing, what the sun is doing, what they're really doing, not what we've been told. You're educating people in a very pleasant and nice way. You're not calling them morons and stupid. And you're also telling people through your actions how living with nature is better. I mean, canning your own food, growing your own vegetables, having your own chickens, these kinds of things are really, most of us aspire to a lifestyle somewhat like that, and some of us will never be able to do that. But, I commend you. I think it's really exciting and makes you a wonderful guest.
Thank you. I would definitely not say I'm a professional at it, but I've been doing it for years now, and I enjoy it. I enjoy gardening. It's not easy, especially in this stage right now where everything is just starting, and I call it my nursery stage, where all the plants are just tiny and they're so fragile. But it also helps me respect it even more and treat it differently. And I'm always out there spending time in the dirt. Then it kind of helps me, But once it gets established, it's kind of like any project, I guess, that you start. Once my gardens get established and they really start taking a good form, and you start seeing blossoms coming out, and you start noticing that it's drawing in honeybees and butterflies, which are going to fertilize the flowers so that we end up having fruit. It's so exciting to watch that cycle happen. And then out of these tiny little, microscopic seeds, we end up getting a large amount of food from it. Oh, my puppy just came in.
Pipple, right?
Yeah.
What's the name?
Don't laugh, but his name is Logger.
Logger. All right. Well. Wonderful.
There's a story behind that. Yeah.
I'm sure there is. Does it involve a long night of drinking?
Just I won't lie. I do enjoy lager. The taste of lager. And when we first got him, he is the color of beer. So it just
Perfect.
seemed like it fit. And he actually looked like a little tiny peanut whenever we first got him, because he was only 5 weeks old. He's tiny. But really, that's it. I set a little can of beer beside him, and we took his picture. And I said, you know what? That's a perfect name.
That's sweet. I've really enjoyed talking to you today, Karlee. Is there anything that we've forgot we wanted to talk about? Anything you would like to express that I haven't asked you?
I think we covered a lot of things. And, if somebody wants to join my group, Flat and Happy, by all means, send a request. But I do encourage you to read the pinned post and just abide by the rules, and everything will go splendidly. And
Yeah.
check out I have just a humble YouTube channel. It's Karlee Sunshine. If you like some of the ideas I was showing you here and are interested in more, I mean, I have all my videos are short, but it's a part of me. It's a part of my journey and my observations. And if you'd like to see where my head's at, you can, check out the channel as well. And I wanted to say, Patricia, that like I said in the beginning, I was very, very honored to be on the show. I was more excited to be on here to talk to you, to talk to another flat earther, and have this interaction than I was to really talk about this stuff. But I knew that it would flow very, easily. And I feel like it hasn't been long enough.
I know, exactly.
I can keep going.
I know, and I'm planning on doing other things with you in the future, maybe with a larger group of people. So I'll be contacting you for that if you don't mind. I think
Absolutely.
it'll be great fun.
That
I
would
will
be
put
wonderful.
a link to your YouTube channel. It's already actually in the description box of this video. And don't forget her Facebook page, Flat and Happy. And thank you, Karlee Sunshine, for being here with us today.
Thank you.
And goodbye to Lager, and goodbye to those who have been watching and listening to the program. This concludes episode number 93 of Flat Earth and Other Hot Potatoes from Lager, Karlee, and myself. Keep it flat.